Well, hello there. Welcome to Ensuring Your Well-Being. I am Dennis James, the bike and dancing insurance man with various insurance planning. We have a great topic today with an amazing lady that's going to be discussing important things like elder law, estate planning, special needs. She's an attorney, and her name is Rebecca Braun with the Mobile Legal Services. Welcome,
Thank
Rebecca.
you. Thank you, Dennis. It's nice to be here.
Well, how are you?
I'm really well, thank you. This is pretty neat. I've actually never done anything like this, so I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, it's going to be fun, and we're gonna be talking about a really important topic that people need to be aware of, right? So, first of all, you have a really unique background, and let's just tell me a little bit about who you are, and how you got into the profession of being an attorney.
Sure. So I started my law career. I went to the University of Detroit Mercy School of Law downtown Detroit, and it was probably my second year of law school. I took an estate planning course, and I just fell in love with it. I knew that I wanted to work with the aging population and helping people understand what their options are. I have never been much of a litigator. I don't really like to argue. I like to help people. So that's kind of how I got into this particular practice area. And I find it's really, really rewarding.
Yeah, and so I mean, you're unique in that of course, the mobile service. So we're going to talk about that, but also I know elder law and estate planning. They kind of play the same role, but of course different. And it seems like you work a lot with seniors.
Yep, absolutely. I would say probably maybe about 70% of my clientele, I would say, are in the aging population. I don't like to necessarily put a number on it,
Sure.
but I mean, I have clients that are in their 30s too. So
Okay.
it's all ages. I have clients that are in their 90s. I think my oldest was about 101. So that was pretty
Oh,
awesome.
wow. Wow, that's a centenarian type person, huh?
Yeah, and he knew exactly what was going on. It was really really nice to see.
Okay. And just real briefly, so of course, that's what you specialize in. I know my brief conversation with you, because to me, it's always important to know, and a lot of times the audience wants to know, when you're not working, what are you doing?
Hobbies. Yeah, sure. So I like to travel. That's probably my biggest thing. I
Hmm.
like to travel internationally. I also like to travel throughout the U.S. I love to camp. So it's summertime. We've been doing a lot of camping.
Okay.
I spend time with my rescue dogs. I have two dogs that I adopted, Ozzy and Ellie, and they're an awesome part of the family. I like cooking. I like exercising. I love to run. I do a lot of running. Um, that's
Hmm.
probably my
So that's
yeah.
pretty cool, right? It's well rounded with what you're doing. You're not always just working, right? You're taking the time for yourself,
Sometimes,
right?
yeah, yeah.
With the dogs, and and you love traveling. And I believe I saw 5 continents.
Yep, yep. And my husband and I are. It'll be our 10-year anniversary, our wedding anniversary in September. So we're planning a trip to Spain this year. So we're very
Wow,
excited.
wow!
Never been there. Really looking forward to
And he's gonna bike. You're gonna run.
that. Yep, across Spain.
Very cool. Well, good for you.
Thank you.
So, what I was really struck about you is how you, with mobile legal services, um, I have never seen any type of attorney that does that. Right, it's all about personal touch. You want to tell me about how that happened and how you proceed with that?
Yeah, absolutely. When so when I got out of law school, I started working at a couple different firms, and really enjoyed the experience that I received from it. But I decided after about 5 years that I wanted to break off and start my own practice. And I really wanted to stand out. I wanted to do something different. I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
provide something special for my clients. And I realized that a lot of people have a lot of mobility issues. A lot of my clients are either homebound or they have fallen and they're in rehabilitation. Maybe they're in the hospital, or maybe they're just, busy, right? Some of my clients are home with their kids and they're like, well, I can't really, grab all my kids and bring them in the car and I can't get a sitter. So I really try to be as convenient as possible to my clients. So I decided that I would travel to them. So I don't charge anything for that travel service. It's all part of the package. It's part of what we do at Mobile Legal Services. We have been we've been a law firm for 10 years. It'll be 10 years in October. So we're really proud of that. And we service 5 counties. So we're in Oakland, Wayne, Washtenaw, Livingston, and Macomb. And the majority of the work that we do is on a flat fee basis. I really try to, again, just trying to think of what irritated my clients the most in previous and more traditional practice. And I think clients were getting frustrated with the typical hourly attorney. It's, I don't want to call my lawyer because it's going to cost me something, or gosh, I really want to know this, but maybe I'll try to figure it out on my own. And I really don't want my clients to feel that way. I am there for them. My intention is to be available to the best of my abilities. And I found flat fees really help with that. People know what they're in for. There's no surprises. And, if something comes up down the road, they're able to call me and they're not on the clock. So I think they really appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. So, and I would imagine that varies when it comes to a flat fee.
Yeah, and I can't do that with every case, so I should absolutely, mention that. I mean, if it's something, typically if I'm doing courtroom work, I'm usually billing hourly just because when it comes to working in the courtrooms and the judges and whatever surprises that may entail, it typically does require just an hourly fee based on, what is involved. But for
Mhm.
I would say the vast majority of my cases, I'm taking on at a flat fee.
Mhm. And I also noticed that which is very unique because it is a big deal. You're a certified dementia practitioner.
Yep. Yeah, I took the course a few years ago, really enjoyed it, really learned a lot. I think it's the more that we can understand about, I mean, especially I deal a lot with capacity issues, right? I mean, with the aging population, some people age really gracefully and some people have
Mhm.
really significant difficulties, and a lot of that comes from dementia, the scary D word that we all hope that we can avoid. But unfortunately, most people will deal with it, whether it's themselves or a loved one at some point in their lives. So
Mhm.
I really wanted to try to understand that disease as best as possible. I mean, I'm not a doctor. I'm not going back to school. I'm done with that. But it's like the more we can learn, the more we can provide for our clients. So I did really appreciate learning that. I'm also VA accredited, so I do also work with some VA programs as well. So those
Right.
are
So
kind of my
that's with
credentials.
sure. Yeah, and that's with the Veterans
Yes, yes,
Association.
yes. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I can relate to that. Having a dad that was a veteran
Oh,
and
wonderful.
being around that with some of his friends and
Hmm. Hmm.
the veterans benefits when my dad passed, and that was very beneficial to my mom.
Yeah, no doubt.
And a lot of people do not know about that.
Yep.
Let's say explore it, and then I recall talking to an attorney about it, and it made a big difference
Great.
for sure. I mean, he served in the Air Force, and so should never be underestimated. That's for sure.
Definitely.
And so, different from estate plan elder law firms. So we talked about that. That's what makes you different with your mobile services. And then um, familiar with estate planning, why it's important. And if give an overview on it, because there are people, um, even though we're going to be talking, we're doing an overview on everything today that we discuss. Talk about that for a minute. The role you play in estate planning, as
Sure.
far as an overview.
Absolutely. So I think when it comes to estate planning, I think most people understand, the basics of it. But um, as an attorney, I cannot underemphasize how important it is to, have a plan in place. So the
Hmm.
idea, and I think a lot of people think of estate planning as just, okay, well, this is where my stuff is going to go when I die, and it's so much more important than that and so much more broad than that. So
Yeah.
there is a lot of misconceptions. I think to me, the most important part of the estate plan is planning for incapacity because, it I try not to think of it as so harsh, but it's like, when you're gone, when you die, you're gone, right? So we can't do much at that point. But, when you're incapacitated, you're still alive. And, and,
Yeah.
and we need to figure out, who's going to make decisions for you, who's going to take care of you.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that it's someone that you trust. And if we fail to plan in that scenario and we become incapacitated, our loved ones have to go to court. And then it's up to the judge to decide who's going to make decisions for us. And, I mean, I think probably in most cases that's going to be okay. But there are always outliers. There are people that maybe don't want their spouse to be in that position, or maybe they don't want a certain child to help. There's so many scenarios that I
Right.
see, and if we just put those powers of attorney in place, then we don't have to worry. It's already taken care of, and the laws state that if you have that document in place, even if it ends up going to court, the judge has to honor your wishes because you put it in writing when you had the capacity and the understanding to make that decision.
So that is the agreement is having that form in place,
The,
the power of
the
attorney.
power of attorney. Yep, and there's two different types. There's a financial and a medical, and some people pick the same person for both roles, and some people pick different depending on who makes the most sense in those particular for those decisions to be made.
Yeah, for sure that. Yeah, because without those forms, then you got a lot of families that are right. It can become a lot of issues,
Hmm.
and it's bad enough, right? But tearing families apart, right? We all know that that can happen unless somebody is making the leading the decision, and that was by getting with that particular family member.
Yep.
In my case, it was my mom.
Hmm.
And it did make a difference for our family, that way.
Yeah.
Even though me and my brothers, we all did, and we were all there, but who knows, probably because I was the oldest in the family, and
Hmm. I see that a lot.
they
Yep.
must have, somebody was listening. And okay, and you mentioned planning for family members with special needs, right? And I mean, that's a topic. All these could be topics on its own, but
Yep.
that one
Absolutely.
for sure. I'm excited that you brought that up, and I'm glad you did. So go ahead and help the audience understand that.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I think I appreciate the way that society has kind of made it more of an easy topic to discuss. And I don't want to use the term easy, but um, I think as we mature as a society, we're more able to talk about children with special needs and adults with special needs, and what do they need in their lives, and how do we fulfill that. And um, the laws have kind of adapted to that. So we have a lot of laws that allow for families with members with special needs or disabilities to really succeed and excel in their lives. And unfortunately, a lot of families don't realize that they have to plan for these things.
Yeah.
So we are able to set up trusts. We are able to ensure that family members can inherit funds and still receive their benefits. One of the biggest things that we want to protect at all costs is typically Medicaid, because these individuals with certain disabilities have astronomical medical expenses, and last thing we want them to do is inherit funds and lose those benefits. So if we plan ahead, we can absolutely protect these inheritances. We can also protect if people are sometimes it's a completely unforeseen disability. Well, I mean, I think they're all unforeseen, but someone can be living their lives and be perfectly well and then get in an accident. And in
Right.
that scenario, we're able to protect any recovery or any settlement that they receive. So it takes knowledge. And I think that's kind of getting the message out there is why it's so important. That's why I'm so happy to be here today, is because if people understand that there are options, they will at least ask the questions and explore a little bit and realize that, oh, well, what I hear a lot is, okay, I was just going to, you know, let's say they have a younger child and they have a disability, but they have an older child who's well. I hear a lot of families say, okay, well, I'm just going to leave all of my money to my older child with the instructions that they're going to take care of my younger child with disabilities. And, that can potentially work, but I'm always weary of things like, what if the older child gets a divorce? you know, Now instead of having maybe their own assets, they now have maybe $300,000 of your assets too. Do you think that their spouse isn't going to want half of that? Um, or what if they're in an accident and they're being sued, or if they have creditor issues, or, I mean, there's so many possibilities of situations where we really want to just do a little bit of planning ahead of time to ensure that our wishes are honored. And that's my job. So that's where I come into play.
Hmm. I know life insurance, right, is
Hmm.
a funding vehicle,
Absolutely.
and
That's a great way to ensure that we're caring and providing for loved ones after we're gone.
yeah, the tax-free benefit of that, and
Hmm.
having what kind of agreements do you normally call those when you're setting them up? And there could be different types, but
So that's typically known as a third party special needs trust. So it's really kind of basic. A third party special needs trust is funded by a third party. So if I'm a disabled individual and my parents die and they leave me money, that's their money that they're giving to me. They are the third party. Now, in my other example, where if I am, a functioning person, but then I get in an accident and now I become disabled, any money that I have would be put into a first party special needs trust. And they have different requirements, and it's based on IRS code and things like that. But basically, I'm able to kind of protect my own money under a first party special needs trust.
okay. Anything more that thoughts on that?
Mm, No, I think that the biggest thing is just understanding that there are options. And I think so many people, and I have clients where we're working with children that are,
Hmm.
you know, very young. And then I have clients where we're working with children that are in their 60s. And we're like, okay, what's going to happen when I'm gone? How do we plan for this? So keeping in mind that it's never too late and it's never too early, but knowing that typically when we're setting up these types of trusts, they are changeable. So we can always make amendments as things go down the road. But I do want to asterisk that with us. Sometimes we make them irrevocable depending on
Right,
what our goals are, and every case is
right,
individualized. So
right. And that irrevocable means it cannot be
you're
changed.
correct. Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Hmm.
And one of the things I don't know, I just thought about as we're talking, Easter seals, right? That normally has a lot of people, all ages, special needs, disabilities.
Yep.
Um, do you know anything about that at all? Without getting a lot into it or not?
No, not specifically. No.
Okay,
Hmm.
I just know that it's really right, and I'm not sure if it's national, but it's for sure really big in the Oakland community, Oakland County
Hmm.
community.
Hmm.
They're all over, and they've bought some other you know businesses within that, and really making a positive difference. It's interesting living in Lake Orion. We have it's called a Miracle uh, Field, and it's for special needs, and it's like a half
Yeah.
mile from here, and it's just so cool because it brings all the special needs people.
Hmm.
all ages together, and it just is a real blessing to see how it inspires the community,
Yeah.
and it's set up for that. Um,
Yeah. I appreciate all of that.
just kind of
Hmm.
thought of that, and then on the elder law, you briefly touched on estate planning and rate, and I keep saying it, but each one of these could be separate topics for a whole hour, and you could go past that. But it's good to kind of give an overview, and I love how you know about it, and you are an expert in it, and that's a big deal, right? So, the term elder law, what does that mean?
I think, I don't know if it's specifically a defined term, right? I think it's kind of different for everyone. But the way that I approach it is I am, often contacted by the family of an aging loved one.
Hmm.
Okay, they maybe need long-term care, or their memory's starting to go, or we want to bring care into the home. How do we pay for this? What does the future look like? These sorts of things. And it's kind of an all-encompassing practice because it's not just one area, right?
Yeah.
So, and I always kind of laugh because I a lot of what I do for elder law is Medicaid.
Hmm.
And so I'm very familiar with the Medicaid program. I work with the My Choice waiver, but more so the long-term care Medicaid. So someone is entered in a nursing home,
Hmm.
they've run out of money. We
Yep.
gotta, we gotta, we gotta get them. We have to ensure that they're cared for. So that's the
Right.
kind of purpose in Medicaid. And I knew I was going to do that. I knew I was going to go off on a tangent and forget where I was. But when I'm contacted by the family, they're like, what do we do? And so it's always in the back of my mind, and it regardless of, I should say, when I'm working with any client. And it's kind of funny because even when I'm working with my clients in their 30s, I'm like, well, we always have to think about Medicaid a little bit, right? Because
Hmm.
even if it's 60 years from now, we still have to be aware of there are rules, and we want to make sure that we're complying with them, and that we're not going to do something now that's going to shoot ourselves in the foot later. So
Right.
to me, elder law is understanding these different programs. Like I said, I'm also VA accredited, so I work with a program. It's called the VA Aid and Attendance,
Yeah.
and that is designed to kind of help veterans and their surviving spouses pay for long-term care. So, or I shouldn't, it's not just long-term care, but care needs as they age. So medical needs as they age.
Right.
Um, and so my goal is to help people understand these programs, possibly qualify for them, and then once they're qualified, take them through the application process. So that's kind of elder law from a benefit standpoint. But then it's also understanding the intricacies of the family dynamics and understanding, again, to the best of my ability, dementia and how that impacts not only the individual, but their families and everybody trying to, navigate this total change in personality sometimes. And so that's where the certified dementia practitioner aspect comes in. But it's really, it's such an important area of law that um, I think so many people just feel really hopeless when they're um, faced with, okay,
Yeah.
mom or dad has been in rehab,
Yeah.
they're 20 days or 90 days or whatever they're going to quote them is up because Medicare, and copays and all these fun things everybody has to deal with that they have no idea what they're doing. And now they're getting kicked out and they're like, okay, well, we're told it's going to be $8,000 a month for them to go here and we can't afford it. What do we do? So it's a very stressful time. And I work with an incredible network of people, obviously someone like yourself, helping the families navigate long-term care
Yeah.
insurance and things like that. I work with individuals that help with placement services. I work with individuals in hospice care, social workers. I mean, there's such a need, but there's so many people that want to help. So it's a really cool area to be in, and I feel really privileged to be able to help
Right.
people the way that I do.
Yeah. That's why yeah. I mean, think about it. I mean, just based on what you just said right there, when somebody, right? I mean, you're able to connect people because you already have the network and the resources,
hmm
right? And I mean,
We do a lot of networking. That's how we met.
and that's how we met.
Yep.
That's exactly right. You
hmm
have to know how you can help people, right? It's just like when somebody's looking for somebody that needs your specific background. I mean, it's just a blessing to be able to go to you, and everybody that's listening right now, right, is going to know who you are and how they can contact you, which is really important. Just like me being in this business with long-term care insurance, I realize people are not educated on it, right? So,
hmm
and it's a stream of income just like anything else you do. If it's life insurance, disability insurance, you name it, and if you don't have it, or if you don't have a resource to figure it out, then, that can be a real issue. It really is always the burden on family members, right?
Yeah.
Because they need to have sources to go to. All right, just a few minutes on this, and then we're going to wrap it up. And I wanted to just on probate law, because you're just doing such a great job. Why don't you just go ahead and
I'll just keep talking. Okay, perfect. So, the other part of my business is I do handle some probate law. So, like I said earlier, I don't handle litigation. I'm not an arguing attorney. It's just not my specialty. I learned that very early on. But I uh, I help people. So when families have failed to plan and they don't have their powers of attorney in place, I will help families obtain guardianship and conservatorship if everyone's on the same page. So if everyone agrees, yeah, whatever sibling or whatever parent or whatever spouse is going to be serving as guardian or conservator, that's perfect. And I think there's just to kind of back up a little bit,
yeah,
let me explain what those are. So, guardian is court appointed, and it is kind of our default if we don't have a power of attorney in place. If we're proactive and have our power of attorney, then the power of attorney steps in when we become incapacitated, away we go. But if an individual becomes incapacitated and didn't plan and doesn't have a power of attorney, our last resort is we have to go to court. And so we go to court and request that the judge appoint a guardian to make kind of welfare decisions, ensuring the individual is getting the care they need, seeing the doctor, really kind of overall health and wellness decisions. And
okay,
if the individual has a significant estate, then we also want to go for conservatorship. So if they've got $100,000 in savings, we want to make sure that that money is protected as well and that it's used for their care. And so we'll request a conservator through the court as well. And that can certainly be a family member that's appointed in that role. But like I said, I'm only stepping in if everybody agrees. If you call me and you're fighting, I refer you out.
gotcha.
Then the other thing that we do in the firm is we handle probate estates. So, um, and this is again done through the probate court, and also it's rare that we're doing trust administrations through the court. Typically, trust administrations are done privately, but we also handle trust administrations. But probate estates are after an individual has died and they have assets that we aren't able to transfer without the use of the probate court. So things that have beneficiaries on them
Hmm.
are going to go directly to that beneficiary. So
Right.
we don't need to use the
Life
probate court.
insurance,
Exactly.
annuities,
Yes.
all those
All those things.
important.
Important things. Absolutely. You got all those contracts that we create. Those are all going to go directly to the individuals named. If we plan ahead and we set up a trust, anything that's in that trust
Hmm.
is going to go directly to that individual or individuals listed in the trust. However, it's set up by the rules, the terms of the trust. However, if we die and we don't have a will, or if we die and we do have a will, if there are assets that do not have beneficiaries, those assets are generally going to have to go through the probate court. And I always tell my clients when we're in this situation, it's not the end of the world because people go, oh gosh, I just want to avoid the courts.
Yeah.
Typically, we don't even have to go to court. It's usually just paperwork, process, time, and of course, money.
Right. Yeah, as in wills and trust, having those all set up,
Mm-hmm.
pre-planning.
Pre-planning. Yep. With pre-planning, we're able to avoid the courts. Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Wow. So good. talk about some great information you gave. That's very impressive. And tell the audience, Rebecca, how they can reach you and right? Because there's going to be people that when in need, maybe not in need, and they're going to, need to speak to an expert like you. So go ahead and let people know how they could contact you and reach you.
Great, appreciate it. So we offer free telephone consultations, so I'm happy to answer questions over the phone. I do typically try to quote people over the phone. So if you call with an issue and it's something that I think I can help with, I'll go run through the issue, try to get a broad overview and say, okay, here's what you're looking at cost wise. We do also offer free document reviews. So if you already have an estate plan in place, but it's a little older and you're like, gosh, I'd really just like someone to take a look at it, I'm happy to do that. I don't charge anything for it, and I'm not going to tell you to redo a document you don't have to redo. My website is mobilelegalservices.com.
Okay.
And the telephone number is 734-407-7657.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This is
That
fun.
was great information. You're a natural at this, just so you know, Rebecca.
Thank you.
So, all right. I'm glad everybody tuned in. And please reach out to Rebecca at any time because she's willing to help you and she can make a difference for you in time of questions or needs. In the meantime, have a blessed day and talk to you soon. God bless.